Joseph smashed the binar's kneecap with a sickening crunch, sending the bug tumbling. But it wasn't about to repay his heroism with gratitude. Beating down one of the strongest males on their planet to defend a female he had no right to court meant the human had just fucked his own life to save her. The grubby mechanic wiped grease on his face as the unconscious insect's two friends squared up to him, clacking and screeching war cries. He'd dreamed of working on their advanced ships since he first saw them land, but a violent death by mandibles was becoming a rapidly approaching nightmare. Joseph dropped into a defensive stance, the strange gravity making his muscles quiver as the aliens lunged forward to avenge their hive brother's disgrace. The commotion had drawn a crowd of binars, all chirping with anger that the alien monkey had interfered in their mating rights. Joseph sidestepped a wild haymaker and swept the legs of the first male in a practiced judo throw before giving the other three rapid shots to the thorax. Still locked in mortal combat, Joseph spared a glance to see if the female had scurried off. Instead, she was staring at him in awe, her antennae quivering. As quickly as it started, the fight ended with Joseph standing over the battered bodies of the three binars, his knuckles dripping with their yellow blood. The crowd's chittering took on a note of fear, mixed with respect, none of them ever having seen a human fight with such ferocity to protect a female that wasn't his own. An ancient binar, bent with age, stepped into the circle and raised his clawed hand, silencing the crowd. His multifaceted eyes studied Joseph, seeing not a threat to destroy, but an opportunity. You fought with bravery to protect a female not your own. This is unheard of. Our people do not understand such acts. The female's life is now your responsibility, as none will challenge your claim after this display. Joseph exhaled and wiped his hands, looking at the battered female, then to the elder. I didn't mean to claim her, I was just trying to help. We're all thinking beings. I couldn't let them hurt her. Her humans, noble but naive. The elder's mandibles formed what passed for a smile. She is Vox, and she will serve as your interpreter and guide from now on. Without her, the hives will see you as a threat, an alien who does not respect our ways. But bonded to her, you may find some begrudging acceptance. Just know that her needs are now yours to meet. Welcome to the colony. With those ominous words, the elder turned and led the crowd away, back to their inscrutable alien business. Vox looked up at Joseph with compound eyes shining with admiration and apprehension. The human gritted his teeth, knowing that his simple act of decency had just gotten him neck-deep in alien trouble. He'd saved the bug's life, but keeping both of them alive would mean navigating a deadly labyrinth of alien customs and politics, with a brand-new mate he'd never asked for. Joseph's jaw dropped. He started shaking his head vehemently, raising his hands in protest. No, you don't understand. I was just trying to help her, not claim her as property. That's not how humans do things. The elder binar silenced Joseph's objections with an imperious wave of his foreleg. His multifaceted eyes glittered as he spoke in a rasping voice. You fail to grasp our ways, human. Unmated females are not autonomous beings, as you would think of it. By defending Vox from those who would claim her, you have asserted your own claim. This is our custom. Joseph felt sick. And if I refuse this responsibility you've shoved on me. The elder's mandibles twitched. Then Vox will be given to her attackers, as compensation for your interference in our traditions. Horror and disgust warred within Joseph. How could he abandon Vox to such a fate? But to participate in a system that treated sentient beings as chattel. Revulsion coiled in his gut, but he saw no other choice. Fine, he bit out through clenched teeth. I'll take responsibility for her. As the crowd dispersed, Vox approached Joseph tentatively. Her antennae quivered as she bowed her head. Thank you for saving me. I am in your debt. Joseph shifted uncomfortably. You don't owe me anything, I just did what was right. Vox's mandibles worked. I had hoped to become an engineer on the starships, but females are not permitted to hold such roles in our culture. Now that you have claimed me, perhaps I could assist you on your freighter. Joseph blinked. The idea of an eager apprentice was appealing, cultural baggage aside. Sure, I could use an extra set of hands, or forelegs, I guess. Welcome aboard. Over the following weeks, Joseph taught Vox the intricacies of spaceship mechanics, from plasma conduits to flux capacitors. In turn, she guided him through the labyrinthine complexities of Bainar language and etiquette. Late one evening, as they worked on the freighter's temperamental engines, a pipe ruptured without warning. Scalding coolant sprayed over them in a searing deluge. Joseph swore, hurrying to divest Vox of her drenched exoskeleton before the liquid could eat through her chitinous hide. As he helped her peel away the segments, he found himself transfixed by the iridescent sheen of her inner skin, glimmering in jeweled hues. Vox noticed his stare and glanced away, mandibles fluttering. An awkward moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken questions. The charged silence shattered as a cadre of Bainar males burst into the freighter, rage emanating from them in palpable waves. The leader jabbed an accusing foreleg at Joseph, shrieking in their native tongue. Vox blanched, translating in a shaky voice. "They say you have defiled me, stripping away my exoskeleton without the blessing of the hive. They demand you surrender me for punishment." Joseph stepped in front of Vox, shielding her with his body as he faced down the furious males. "I won't let you touch her. She's done nothing wrong." Clacking and hissing, the Bainars advanced, a thicket of razored forelegs reaching for Vox. Joseph braced himself for a fight, mind racing for a solution. Behind him, Vox trembled, pressing close to his back. A tense standoff stretched between them, the air crackling with imminent violence. The standoff ended abruptly. A Bainar magistrate burst into the freighter's hold, several armed guards in tow. Joseph and the Bainar males turned to look at the imposing figure, who glared around imperiously. "What is the meaning of this disturbance?" the magistrate demanded, her multifaceted eyes flashing. The males immediately launched into a barrage of accusations, gesturing angrily at Joseph. "The human defiled his claimed female. We caught him stripping away her exoskeleton, touching what is not his to touch." Joseph started to protest, but the magistrate silenced him with a raised foreleg. She turned to Vox. "Is this true? Did the human defile you?" Vox shook her head vehemently. "No, magistrate, there was an accident. Joseph was only trying to remove my exoskeleton because it was soaked in corrosive coolant. He saved me from injury." The magistrate considered this, then nodded to her guards. "Take the female into custody. We will investigate this matter thoroughly." "What? No!" Joseph shouted as the guards seized Vox. He lunged forward, but more guards restrained him. "You can't do this! She's done nothing wrong!" The magistrate fixed him with a cold stare. "Be silent, human. You have no say in this." Joseph's mind raced desperately. There had to be a way to protect Vox. Then it hit him. A crazy idea, but it might just work. "I invoke the right of courtship," he yelled. The entire hold fell silent. The magistrate blinked slowly. "What did you say?" Joseph took a deep breath. "I said I wish to initiate a formal courtship. By Bainar tradition, that would grant Vox protection and give me the right to defend her in a legal challenge." The magistrate's mandibles worked furiously. "This is most irregular, a human courting a Bainar female." She turned to Vox. "Do you accept this alien suit?" All eyes were on Vox. She hesitated, glancing between Joseph and the glowering males. Then, almost imperceptibly, she clicked her mandibles. "I accept." The males erupted in furious chittering, but the magistrate slammed her foreleg against the wall, producing a resounding clang. "Enough! The courtship is recognized. The female is now under its protection. Any harassment will be severely punished." And so began the strangest month of Joseph's life. He and Vox were swept up in a whirlwind of Bainar courtship rituals. Joseph had to publicly demonstrate his engineering prowess by repairing a malfunctioning harvester drone, while Vox underwent rigorous biological compatibility testing. Despite the bizarre circumstances, Joseph found himself growing increasingly fond of Vox. Her quick wit and keen mind impressed him, and he admired her resilient spirit in the face of her society's oppression. For her part, Vox was continually amazed by Joseph's selfless bravery, so alien to her people's coldly pragmatic ways. But their budding connection faced a dire threat when a seething male Bynarr, Zaxid, confronted them one day. He fixed Joseph with a hate-filled glare, his mandibles quivering with rage. "I challenge you, human," Zaxid spat. "I invoke the right of combat. The victor claims the female." Joseph's blood ran cold. A duel, with Vox as the prize? He met Zaxid's multifaceted gaze, saw the naked malevolence there, and knew he had no choice. For Vox's sake, he had to win. "I accept your challenge." Zaxid's challenge hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Joseph's mind raced, seeking any escape from this barbaric custom. But Vox's trembling form behind him, her fate bound to his, left no doubt. He had to accept, for her. "Name your terms," Joseph growled through gritted teeth. Zaxid's mandibles clicked in savage glee. "To the death in the ceremonial battle pit," and he jabbed a foreleg at Vox. "When I kill you, the female is mine." Joseph's fists clenched, but he gave a curt nod. "I accept." The duel was set for high noon the next day. Bynarr tradition allowed each combatant to choose a weapon from their armory. Zaxid selected a pair of serrated claw blades, their edges glinting with malice. Joseph, to the crowd's shock and derision, chose a simple wooden quarterstaff. "He mocks our ways," Zaxid shrieked to the assembled throng. "See how the human insults us." But Joseph ignored the outraged chittering, his focus solely on the weapon's heft and balance. He had a plan, a desperate one. The battle pit was a sandy arena ringed by tiered stone benches packed with spectators. Joseph and Zaxid entered from opposite ends and began circling, sizing each other up. Zaxid struck first, a lightning slash that would have disemboweled Joseph had he not twisted away at the last second. The crowd roared, lusting for blood. Joseph parried the next flurry of blows, his staff a blur of motion. But he was on the defensive, Zaxid's onslaught relentless. Each block jarred his bones, each narrow dodge sapped his stamina. And Zaxid showed no signs of tiring, his exoskeleton-clad body a perfect fighting machine evolved for this brutal purpose. Joseph's human physique, for all its agility and endurance, was being pushed to its limits. Sweat stung his eyes, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Zaxid sensed weakness and pressed his advantage, his claws a whirlwind of glinting death. Joseph's staff splintered under a particularly vicious blow, and he staggered back, Zaxid's next strike carving a burning line across his chest. The crowd shrieked in bloodthirsty joy. Through the haze of pain and exhaustion, Joseph saw Vox, her eyes wide with terror, and in that moment he knew he couldn't fail her. Marshalling the last dregs of his strength, Joseph shifted his grip on the staff's broken halves and charged. Zaxid reared up to meet him, claws poised to eviscerate. At the last second, Joseph dropped and baseball slid between Zaxid's legs, raking the jagged end of one staff half across the Bynarr's unarmored thorax as he passed. Zaxid screeched in agony and whirled to strike, but too late. Joseph was already behind him, and with a final surge of desperate strength, he brought the other staff half crashing down on the Bynarr's skull with a sickening crack. Zaxid crumpled to the sand and lay still. For a moment, a stunned silence gripped the arena. Then a lone voice rang out. "He cheated!" The cry was taken up by others. "The human used trickery. He violated the sacred right of combat." The crowd's shock turned to outrage, and they surged forward, Zaxid's kinsman in the lead. "Seize him," they chittered, "and take the female." Joseph tried to reach Vox, but the press of enraged Bynarrs drove them apart. He glimpsed her terrified face as clawed hands grabbed her and dragged her away. "Joseph!" Her scream cut through the chaos. "Help me!" Mandibles clacking, compound eyes blazing with fury. The mob closed in on Joseph, his staff raised in desperate defiance against the tide of chitin and vengeance. Joseph's vision blurred, his face a mask of blood and bruises. as the Bynar guards dragged him before the magistrate. He struggled weakly, but their chitinous claws held him fast. The magistrate loomed over him, her multifaceted eyes cold and unyielding. "Human, your actions have incited chaos and violence. You have violated the sacred traditions of our courtship rituals. By our laws, you have forfeited any claim on the female Vox." "Please," Joseph rasped, his voice hoarse with desperation. "I love her. I'll do anything, submit to any punishment. Just don't take her from me." The magistrate's mandibles clicked in disdain. "Your alien sentimentality means nothing here. You will be deported to your Earth immediately, never to return on pain of death, and Vox will be given to Kret as compensation for the dishonor of losing to an outsider." Joseph's heart shattered. He looked past the magistrate to where Kret stood, smug triumph emanating from his stance as he gripped Vox's arm possessively. She met Joseph's gaze, her compound eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The guards hauled Joseph to his feet, marching him roughly towards a waiting spacecraft. Each step was agony, his battered body screaming in protest, but it was nothing compared to the anguish in his soul. At the ship's airlock, he craned his neck for a final glimpse of Vox. She broke free from Kret's grasp and ran to him, pressing something small and hard into his palm. "My heart is yours always," she whispered brokenly. Then Kret was there, seizing her, yanking her back. The airlock sealed with a hiss of finality, and the ship lurched into the sky. Joseph stumbled to a viewport, watching helplessly as the Bynar homeworld shrank to a mocking speck in the infinite void. Days bled together in a haze of grief and despair as the ship hurtled towards Earth. Joseph barely ate, barely slept. The only thing that felt real was the weight of Vox's parting gift in his pocket. Finally, as Sul swelled in the forward screens, he found the strength to pull out the data chip and slot it into his comm with trembling fingers. Vox's hologram shimmered to life, her image achingly perfect. "Joseph, my love," she began, "if you're seeing this, then I am lost to you." Her voice quavered, mandibles quivering. "But our dream is not. This chip contains the schematics we created together for an FTL drive that could change everything, complete our work, use it to build a new life among the stars, far from the cruelty and intolerance that tore us apart." She pressed a foreleg to her thorax as if to hold in her breaking heart. "I will love you until my last breath. Be free, my darling. Be free." The message winked out, leaving Joseph in the yawning emptiness of his cabin. He stared at the chip in his hand, Vox's final gift, her sacrifice. Slowly, purposefully, he curled his fingers around it, feeling the weight of their shattered future, the promise of a new beginning. He turned to face the viewport, the blue-green crescent of Earth rising to greet him, like an old friend grown strange with distance. Behind him, parsecs away, lay the tattered remnants of his heart. Before him, a universe of possibilities, a blank canvas upon which to paint a destiny of his own making. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.